Here are some facts about me. I didn't recognize my own son. I was not interested in relationships at all. I did not finish the painting. The Last Supper. I often quarreled with my customers. All facts are truth. I am Leonardo da Vinci, a Renaissance polymath celebrated for my contributions to art, science, and invention, known for masterpieces like the Mona Lisa and the Last Supper, as well as my visionary ideas in anatomy, engineering, and flight. I am ashamed of some things, and some things almost destroyed me. However, it is an integral part of my life. It proves that famous people have the same problems and life challenges as everyone else. Now all about it in more detail. Section 1. I didn't recognize my own son. I have painted the visage of the Virgin, sculpted the figure of man, and drawn the wings of birds in flight, yet within the canvas of my own life lies a shadow, a child, born not of my hands but of a fleeting, forgotten moment. His name is Pirino. Pirino. A name I whispered to myself in the quietest hours but never dared speak aloud. A son, born to a woman whose name has slipped through the sieve of my memory, perhaps forgotten even by herself. I, who studied the contours of the human form with unmatched devotion, could not bring myself to face the most elemental shape of all, the bond between a father and his child. I told myself it was freedom. I claimed that the responsibilities of fatherhood would stifle my pursuits. But does a man truly escape his reflection? I spent countless hours observing the patterns of veins on leaves, marveling at the intricate design of life. Yet in the pursuit of such understanding, I allowed the pulse of my own blood, my own lineage, to fade into obscurity. Pirino became less a person and more a distant shadow, confined to the neglected corners of my mind. I did not raise him. This admission sits heavier on my soul than the weight of my most ambitious works. I, who could dissect the anatomy of a man with precision, failed to grasp the delicate complexity of a child's heart. I did not hold his hand, nor did I ever see his face in restful slumber. My eyes, always turned outward, searching for beauty in the world, never paused to look inward at the beauty I had created in him. Art calls to me, I would say. Science demands my attention. But the truth is that it was not art or science that stole me from him, it was me. My selfishness. My fear. I convinced myself that my art would be my greatest legacy, that the works I left behind would speak for my life. Yet, in abandoning my role as a father, I forsook the most human legacy of all, love. What is art, if not a reflection of the soul? I painted the faces of kings, gods, and saints, but when confronted with the simplest and most sacred creation, my own son, I turned away. I wonder what became of him. Where is Pirino now? Did he grow strong and wise, or did my absence leave a mark that shaped his every step? The not knowing is its own form of torment, a lingering ache like the quiet agony of an unfinished masterpiece. There are questions I dare not ask, fears I dare not confront. Did he curse my name? Did he ever look for me? Or did he build his life in defiance of the shadow I left? Regret, they say, is a heavy burden, but it is also an unyielding teacher. I know now that greatness achieved at the expense of those we love is no greatness at all. My life, with all its accolades and triumphs, feels hollow when measured against the simple truth of my failure. There is no canvas broad enough, no pigment vivid enough to erase this regret. I have often wondered whether he looked to the skies for answers, as I once did, or whether he chose to root himself in the earth, steadfast and unwavering. Perhaps he became an artist, inspired by the legacy I inadvertently left. Or perhaps he rejected such pursuits, finding meaning in the bonds I so carelessly abandoned. These thoughts haunt me, for they are all I have of him, a series of unanswered questions and unfulfilled possibilities. Pirino, wherever you are, I hope the world has been kind to you in ways I could not be. I hope you have known the warmth of love that I failed to provide. If you see the world through eyes unclouded by ambition, I would count that as my greatest success, though it came not from my doing. I leave you no grand inheritance, no monumental works to claim as your own. All I have are these words, a pale attempt at atonement. They say a man is best understood in his absences. The voids he leaves behind speak louder than his presence ever could. My absence from your life is a mark I cannot erase. I can only hope it is a mark you overcame, rather than one that defined you. What is the value of genius, of eternal recognition, if it comes at the cost of being human? If I could trade every work of art, every accolade, for a single day with you, I would do so without hesitation. But the past is a landscape that no artist can alter. I am sorry, Pirino, for what I gave you, and for what I failed to give. May your life be richer, kinder, and more whole than mine ever was. Section 2. I was not interested in relationships at all. I have spent a lifetime in pursuit of knowledge, an endless quest to unlock the secrets of the universe. My hands have painted the smiles of saints, and sculpted the perfection of man's form. I have mapped the symmetry of the human body, dissected the mysteries of nature, and charted the stars that guide us. And yet, in all my endeavors, there remains one truth that eludes me. Love. That elusive force that binds hearts and fuels lives. It is sung in poetry, rendered in paint, and sculpted in stone. Yet for me, it remains a shadow. I, Leonardo da Vinci, who sought to uncover the workings of the human heart, never allowed myself to feel its full measure. It's not that I was incapable of love or devoid of affection. I have felt the pangs of admiration, the stirrings of something deeper, but I turned away from them. Perhaps it was fear. Fear of vulnerability, fear of the chaos love brings, or fear of losing control over the life I so carefully crafted. My work required clarity, discipline, and singular focus. Love demanded none of these things. It was unpredictable, consuming, and perhaps to me, distracting. In my youth, I was captivated by the idea of love. I saw it in others, observed its power to transform lives. Yet I also witnessed its failures, the heartbreak, the jealousy, the pain. I grew skeptical. Was this what people held in such high regard? To me, it seemed messy and imperfect, the very opposite of the order I sought to bring to my work. There were people who stirred my soul, of course. Salai, my apprentice, with his mischievous charm and unpredictable nature, held a place in my life that few others did. There was something about him that fascinated me, challenged me. But even with him, I held back. There was an invisible wall I built around myself, one that kept me from fully surrendering to the tides of affection. I could not, would not, let myself be swept away. Instead, I buried myself in my work. The Vitruvian Man, the Mona Lisa, my anatomical studies, they became my refuge. My love was reserved for ideas, for beauty, for the pursuit of knowledge. And so, I became known as a man of genius, a pioneer in art and science. But genius is a lonely title. My brilliance set me apart, and in that isolation, I found both solace and sorrow. Did I miss something essential? Did my refusal to embrace love leave my life incomplete? These questions haunt me. I think of the people I could have shared my life with, the moments of joy I might have experienced. I wonder if my works, my paintings, my inventions, my notebooks, were merely attempts to fill the void left by my inability to connect with others on a deeper level. The human heart, after all, is not just a muscle to be studied. It is a source of endless mystery, a wellspring of emotion that cannot be dissected or quantified. I could render it in exquisite detail, but I could not grasp its essence. Perhaps that is why I turned away. Perhaps I feared that in exploring the depths of my own heart, I would find only emptiness. In solitude, I have often pondered these things. There is a longing in me, a quiet ache for something I cannot name. I wonder, had I allowed myself to love, to truly love, what might my life have been? Would it have been richer, more meaningful? Or would it have been fraught with the very chaos I sought to avoid? As I near the end of my life, I find myself reflecting not on my achievements, but on what I left undone. My notebooks are filled with unfinished sketches, ideas that were never realized. In many ways, my heart feels the same, unfinished, incomplete. I have spent a lifetime creating, but I fear I have missed the greatest creation of all, the bond between one soul and another. To those who come after me, who admire my work and speak of my genius, I offer this: do not fear love. It is not a distraction or a weakness. It is the essence of what makes us human. The search for knowledge is noble, but the search for connection is essential. As for me, I remain an enigma, even to myself. I have sought to understand the world, but in doing so, I failed to understand my own heart. And now, it is too late. My work will endure, but it is not enough. Art and science cannot fill the void left by the absence of love. If I could speak to my younger self, I would tell him this: do not shy away from the messiness of life. Do not fear the imperfection of love. Embrace it, for it is in those imperfections that the true beauty of existence lies. But I cannot change the past. I can only leave this confession, this record of my solitude, as a warning to those who follow in my footsteps. Do not make the same mistake I did. Do not let the pursuit of greatness blind you to the simple, profound joys of being human. And so I, Leonardo, leave behind a legacy of art and invention, but also of regret. The heart is a labyrinth I could never navigate, a canvas I could never complete. And in that incompleteness lies the truth of who I am, a man who sought everything but found himself wanting the one thing he could never truly understand. Section 3. I did not finish the painting. The Last Supper. The world knows me by many titles: painter, inventor, engineer, philosopher. I have charted the human anatomy, imagined machines to conquer the air, and painted moments so vivid they seem to breathe. Yet beneath this legacy lies an undeniable truth: my life is marked by an overwhelming pattern of incompletion. The unfinished, this is my shadow. My notebooks are filled with sketches that never reached fruition, ideas so abundant they overwhelmed the time and means I had to realize them. My mind raced faster than my hands, always driven by insatiable curiosity. Take The Last Supper, for example. It stands as one of my most celebrated works, yet even this triumph is imperfect. I attempted a new technique, blending oil and tempera on a dry wall. The result? The paint began to flake almost immediately. It was not an error born of carelessness but of experimentation, of my belief that I could push the boundaries of what was possible. The mural's deterioration was a disappointment to me, but I moved forward, chasing new ideas before truly addressing the flaws of the old. My notebooks tell the same story. These volumes, over 7,000 pages in total, contain ideas centuries ahead of their time. Drawings of flying machines, scuba gear, and even a rudimentary tank show glimpses of futures I could only imagine. I studied the flight of birds, hoping to translate their mechanics into human ingenuity. I dissected cadavers to map the inner workings of the human body with a precision unmatched in my era. Yet most of these inventions remained as sketches, concepts waiting for a world that could fully understand them. Was it a lack of focus? Perhaps. My mind was like a river, always branching, always flowing in new directions. The act of discovery exhilarated me, but the patience required to complete a project often felt like a burden. I was driven by the thrill of curiosity, not by the discipline of closure. Consider my painting, Adoration of the Magi. Begun in 1481, it remains incomplete to this day. The composition was ambitious, filled with intricate details and dynamic movement. But I left Florence before it was finished, moving to Milan to work for the Sforza family. My departure marked the end of that particular creation, though the unfinished work still speaks to the ambition of what it might have been. Even Mona Lisa, my most famous work, reflects my obsession with perfection and my reluctance to let go. I worked on her for years, carrying the painting with me wherever I went, constantly refining her enigmatic smile. Some say I never truly finished her, that I could not bring myself to stop searching for perfection in her face. Then there are my architectural and engineering projects. Ludovico Sforza tasked me with designing an equestrian statue of colossal scale, one that would immortalize his father. I spent years planning, creating a clay model over 23 feet tall, only for it to be destroyed when French forces invaded Milan. The bronze intended for the statue was repurposed for cannons, and my vision was lost. Yet, in these failures and incompletions, I see another perspective. What if my true legacy is not the finished works but the sparks of inspiration I left behind? My designs for helicopters, parachutes, and even automation laid the groundwork for inventions realized long after my time. My anatomical studies influenced medicine and art alike, providing insights that would guide scholars for generations. To some, my unfinished projects may seem like a testament to a lack of discipline, but to me, they reflect the limits of human existence. I was one man with one lifetime, yet my mind held the dreams of an era yet to come. I could not finish everything, but I could begin. I could plant seeds for others to nurture. This pattern of incompletion was not born of apathy but of ambition. I was not content to remain in one place, one discipline, or one idea. To live, for me, was to explore endlessly. Each unpainted canvas, each half-built machine, each unfinished treatise, they are fragments of a greater whole, pieces of a vision that extends beyond my mortal reach. I leave these words not as an apology but as an acknowledgement. To those who come after me, who study my works and criticize my failures, I say, embrace the unfinished. Let your curiosity lead you down paths uncharted. Do not fear incompletion, for even an unfinished idea can spark a revolution. I am Leonardo da Vinci, a man who began more than he could ever finish. And yet I find peace in knowing that my work, though incomplete, has left traces of possibility in the world. It is not for me to finish everything but to inspire others to dream as I did, to pick up where I left off, and to bring their own visions to life. Section 4. I often quarreled with my customers. Ah, my dear companions in thought, you who seek to understand the heart of a man like me, let me speak plainly, for my soul is heavy with the weight of contention. They say genius is a blessing, but I have found it to be as much a curse. I have lived through times of great turmoil and change, and I have served mighty men, Ludovico Sforza, the Duke of Milan, Cesare Borgia, and even the King of France. These were powerful men, grand in their desires, but narrow in their visions. They demanded marvels, frescoes to dazzle their halls, machines to crush their enemies, and all in the name of their ambitions. I, Leonardo da Vinci, was expected to conjure these wonders at their whim, at the mercy of their limited understanding. But tell me, how does one craft true beauty under the lash of a deadline? How can one give birth to a masterpiece when every brush stroke is dictated by the hand of another? These men wanted paintings, yes, but they did not want the truth in them. They wanted machines, but not the knowledge that birthed them. They sought spectacle over substance, appearance over reality. Ludovico, the Duke of Milan, was the most relentless of them all. He called me to his court as though summoning a mere craftsman, a tool to shape his legacy. I was not called as an artist to bring truth to life, but as a servant to fulfill the Duke's every whim. He wanted grand spectacles, war engines, colossal statues, feats of engineering that would dwarf the gods themselves. I gave him my mind, my time, my soul, but all he gave me in return was impatience and distrust. "Why have you not finished?" he would ask, his voice sharp and demanding. "Why has this taken so long?" But could I answer him? Could I explain that creation does not adhere to the ticking of a clock? Does a tree finish growing? Does the sun finish shining? No, the true works of creation are not bound by the petty constraints of time or the whims of a patron. They take their own shape, their own time. And yet I failed him. I failed many. For I could not bow to their demands, could not force my spirit into their narrow molds. It is my nature, you see. I do not obey. I do not submit. I do not bend my will to the will of others. That is not the way of true creation. Ah, and my contemporaries, those who called themselves artists, scientists, philosophers. How often I clashed with them. They envied what they did not understand. They saw my notebooks filled with sketches of flying machines, anatomical studies, celestial diagrams, and they scoffed. Fantasist, they whispered behind closed doors. A man of ideas, but no action. Do they not see? The ideas are the action. The thought is the birth of all creation. A man who can conceive of such wonders must surely be a man of action. But no, they see only the incomplete. They see only what has not come to fruition. What they fail to understand is that I am not bound by the same limitations as they. I do not create for profit, nor for approval. I create because the thoughts within me demand expression. But the world did not see it that way. They saw only the half-finished. They saw only what was not yet realized. They sought the tangible, the finished, the profitable. They did not see the art of thinking, of imagining, of dreaming. My refusal to compete in their petty rivalries, to play their games of flattery and deceit, has left me isolated. I have become an island of thought in a sea of mediocrity. And yet I wonder, was it my pride that drove them away? My refusal to yield? Perhaps I am as much to blame as they. Perhaps the fault lies not only in their demands but in my reluctance to meet them halfway. Could I have been more patient, more willing to play the game? I see now that genius without humility can be a lonely thing. But would that have made me a better man? Or would I have sacrificed the very essence of my being? I do not know. What I do know is this: I will never be the servant of anyone but my own curiosity. I will never bend to the will of those who seek to control my creativity for their own gain. My work, my thoughts, my creations belong to me alone. But listen, my friends, for I am not without faith. My works may remain incomplete, my relationships frayed, but the seeds I have sown, those will grow. The machines I have imagined, the worlds I have glimpsed through my studies of the stars and the flesh, these will live on. They will persist long after the disputes and quarrels of my time have been forgotten. I may not have completed all I set out to do, but my legacy is not one of finished projects. It is a legacy of thought, of imagination, of possibility. It is a legacy of what could be, not what was. So let them scorn me. Let them call me difficult, eccentric, even a failure. I am Leonardo da Vinci, a servant to no man but the eternal muse of curiosity. And though I may walk alone, I walk toward the infinite. Judge me if you must, but know this: The legacy of a mind unfettered by compromise is a legacy that time itself cannot erase. Though I may not have built the machines I envisioned, though I may not have painted the full breadth of my thoughts, I have sparked something in those who follow. I have shown them the art of thinking, of imagining, of dreaming. And perhaps, that is my truest gift to the world. I am Leonardo da Vinci, a man of many beginnings and few endings. And though my journey may not be finished, it will continue through those who dare to dream as I have. For in their hands, my incomplete vision will find its fulfillment.